God, politics, and sports. Three areas people say you should try to avoid. But here we are. I'm Bill Smith, and I look forward to talking to you about faith, politics, and sports. Hey, everybody. Welcome to GPS with Bill Smith, God, politics, and sports. And once again, I'm Bill Smith, as I said at the very beginning. But I'm excited to speak with you all. So let's get the show rolling. Let's get right into it. One of the things that I really pray for is that every one of you mothers had a great weekend and that you were all treated like the queens that you are. And I think it's very important that we understand that how powerful you are as women and as mothers. The impact you make on our lives are eternal. So I pray that you all had fantastic weekends, and whether you carried a child, whether you adopted, whether you speak into others' lives, whether someone else calls you mom or mother, whether you're an aunt, whatever it might be, godmother, I just pray you had an awesome weekend. And once again, you were treated like the queens that you are, because just the very words that you share change lives on a daily basis. And I really hope that they all treated you in such a manner and that you were just overwhelmed with love this past weekend. So we have such a vital topic today, if you will. And I want to talk about body language. Now that's the title of it, is body language. We'll cover different areas, but I'm really going to stay focused on body language throughout this podcast. And it may dip into other areas, but I really want to stay, because I was watching some things, especially in the sports world, that goes on in body language. And I thought, wow, people don't necessarily talk about it too much. We really don't get into it, how somebody's body language and how much you may be saying to somebody without even realizing it, especially in law enforcement. You know, body language can be the difference between life and death in law enforcement. Now, we understand hands kill. So you're always looking at my 30 years of law enforcement. You always look at hands. We're always looking at hands. Where are the hands? Because hands kill. But man, precursor to hands is body language. How a person is standing, how a person may be looking, the position that they may be getting themselves in. Are they getting in a position to strike and attack you? How are their hands looking? Their facial expressions, how are their feet? All these things roll in to body language. So body language is so very vitally important in everything we do in life and how we worship God. What is your body? What is that? What are you giving off in that? What are people beginning to see? What are people seeing when you say, hey, I'm a child of God, but your body language is always walking around defeated? What is it in politics? When you look up in politics and your body language is always angry, or everything that you're saying is a certain way, or how you carry yourself, how you walk. Do you walk around defeated? Do you walk around slumped over? People have voted for you to be in your position, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent. People voted for you to be in certain positions, and they want to see their leadership carry themselves, especially when it comes to being in front of a foreign leadership or around other foreign leaders. And it's funny. And I told you we're gonna jump all over the place a little bit today. So we're still got politics and sports. We're gonna move around a little bit. It's really funny when I would look at over the years. I always look at how presidents, how they talk to or address other leaders, their handshakes. Are they putting people in front of them, or are they letting people stand above? It just those different things that can come out to be, hey, this is where you're at and what status you may think you are. Now, the Bible tells us the greatest among us will be the servant. That's what Jesus told the disciples. He said the greatest among you will be the one that's a servant. Being a servant doesn't mean subservient. You're still your body language. Do you carry yourself in such a way with great confidence? I love when I go to a restaurant and I'm sitting down to eat, and our waiter or waitress carries himself in such a manner, and their body language says, you know what, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do it the best. I'm going to make sure that you enjoy your food by how I do my job. And that's why we tip fat. And my wife and I, we don't tip the norm. A lot of times it's if they say, hey, the 20% is say $20, then we're going 40 plus. I'm just a firm believer in sowing in the lives that people who put into that effort for that type of sowing to begin to happen in their lives. Even when I spent a year, and I talked about it, I worked as a janitor at VA. I could walk around and act like the world was ending because I was a janitor, but I will tell you this much: when my children got clothes, and they still got clothes, when they got fed, when bills were paid, it was all done with honest money. And I carried myself in that way, my body language, and I really believe that led to further promotion in the other areas in my life and financial breakthrough, as well as just sowing seeds. And we talked about that before, but sowing seeds, but body language. God said he loves a cheerful giver, not someone who's going to sit there and look all sad when they're sowing or when you're doing something for someone else. What are you doing? What is your body language portraying before you? So this segment of GPS is brought to you by our sponsor, Q Craft Sausage. You can text 706-409-3532, or you can DM at Marquez Carr on IG, or you can go to qcraftsausage.square.site to order the sausage right there on site. And once again, it's terrific sausage. So you get there, and it's just cheesecake. If you want to, you get some sausage. Now you want to get some cheesecake, or it's sourdough. It's bread that his wife makes. So these are some areas you can. I got y'all. Go to the gym. By the time you finish listening to me, you get your sausage. You go to It's Just Cheesecake. Oh, there's one on Zaragoza, one on the west side, and you get your cheesecake, you eat that, and then you say, well, before that, I'm going to get my sourdough to go with the sausage, and you tear that down. You're going to need to go to the gym. You're going to need to go to the gym. But if you're listening to this around the country, you're not here in El Paso, definitely order that qcraftsausage.square.site. Go to that and make sure you order that and get you some good sausage. I'll get you some really good sausage. So being in a few different areas of life, I've seen the importance and mental effects of body language. I really have. So once again, whether it's in worship, whether it's in ministry, law enforcement, raising children, sports, and many other areas, body language is so very, very, very important, especially in raising children. Because if you're always walking around looking sad because your children don't want to listen to you, they will feed off of that. And other people feed off of it also. So this is how you carry yourself in that body language. You're in sports, and we'll touch on that a lot during this time period in this podcast. We will touch on that a lot. In sports, your body language, how it carries yourself. But when you're witnessing to someone, you're sharing the gospel. And for those that are born again believers that are watching this podcast, and you're going out and you're sharing the gospel, your body language is important, because you can say the words, but if your body says the opposite, people are going to look at your body language before they hear the words that you're speaking. So if the words that you're speaking need to match your body language needs to match up to the words you're speaking. When we're told to walk by faith and not by sight, that's in everything that we do, including the word that we're sharing with other people. They should see your faith. They should see it. They should see it. Paul even says that, I'll know your faith by your works, your level, your faith, what you're pouring into it by your works. So when you're witnessing to people, man, do it with great excitement. I always think about it like this: when I watch a movie or a TV show and I really like it, and I talk to people about it, they can see in my facial expressions, my body, that, man, this dude really, 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 really enjoyed what he was watching. If it's a restaurant I'm talking about, and oh my God, this food was it. The body language displays it. Now if I say, well, I really did like the food, people aren't going to respond to it. They're not going to want to hear it. So when you're witnessing, you're sharing, body language is so very powerful. I know, especially in marriage, I've been married for 38 years, and I will tell you this much, how body language says a lot. When you're speaking to your spouse, and your spouse is speaking to you, how you address one another, your body language says even more so. You may say hello, babe, but your body language may say something totally different. And been there, done that. 38 years, you see a lot in 38 years, and I pray for another 38 plus. That'll put us at 95-ish. Yeah. So we're, yeah, because, yeah. So praying for even more of that. We both live to be 120. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm praying for. And I'm serious. I'm not joking about that. I'm serious about that. And I ain't talking about living to 120. Folks got to clean up after me. And no, nah. I mean, you can bring me a sandwich every now and then, but even when it comes to intimacy, and it's funny, you see those things, shorts and etc., where people will say on the internet, reels, and it's true. You can look at how your wife may be walking, can set off. Now, with most men, you see a kneecap, you lost your mind, but even with women, how your husband may be walking, how they may be carrying themselves, you can say, okay, yeah, it's on tonight, or I better hide because this dude's on the warpath and I know what he's coming after. Yeah, he's walking around the house like that. I already know what's on his mindset. But all these things are all based back to body language. Like I said, especially in marriage, body language is important. Everything that we do, body language is connected back to it. The facial expressions, the hands, the body slouching. If I was doing this the whole time period and I was slouched over, you would say, this dude really don't care. But I don't. I sit up straight and I talk right to you because that body language is important. So even when it comes to worshiping God, wow. I say this because you can look out. First off, when you're worshiping God, you should be focused between you and God. You're not looking at everybody else. But there are times that your body language just gives off, or a person's body, not just yours, I'm saying a person's body language can give off that I really don't want to be here. Or they're more concerned about what somebody else is doing than what they're doing. They're looking around, maybe a little confused. Maybe, and the one thing we have to understand, especially in church, if it's somebody's first time being there at your ministry, and you don't know what their background may be, don't run up on them trying to force them in anything. Let God begin to minister to them and bring them along in that area of worship. In that area of worship, their body language will change as God begins to minister and share with them. So it's very important. And even with those that when you're going into different things in your life, and I could say going into war, but it could be financially, it could be emotionally, it could be whatever, it could be a whole lot of different things, but your body language is so very important. And God wanted Gideon to choose those that their body language and their mannerisms displayed readiness and focus. And in Judges 7, 1-8, we see, if you go back to 6, you'll see where God speaks to Gideon. And Gideon's body language is one of defeat or questioning. But then God spoke a word to him. He called him man of God, mighty man of God, man of valor, if you will. But then he gave him a command, and he said, and you look at the 7th chapter, the 1st to the 8th verse, God said that you still have, starting at the 4th verse, or talking about the 4th verse, and when God says to him, hey, you still got too many men out here. I want you to take them down to the water, and I will thin them out from there. So God said, these are the ones, this is how I'm going to focus on these people. And if I say this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, then he shall not go. So Gideon, at the 5th verse, so Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues as a dog laps, and from those who kneel down to drink. These 300 men, 300 of them drank from cup hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. That body language in the 5th and 6th verse, why was that so important? Because that body language showed readiness. The ones who lap like this, and all the year, I read it before, and one year when my bishop, Dr. Brown, broke this down, I was like, wow, because no one ever really broke it down to me. And I didn't really understand how important my body language was. Because those who were lapping like this, you like that sound effect? Anyway, those that were doing that, they were alert. They were ready. Their eyes were alert. They were focused on the task at hand. The ones who just got down and dipped their head in the water and played in the water, that's not the body language you want, because they're not disciplined. They're not focused on victory. They're not focused on getting after it. They're not focused on making a change in a life and winning a war. And so that's why that body language is so important, because in the 7th verse, the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that I tap, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So look what he did. He said, you guys are released, because it's all about their body language. You can go. You stay. This is the 300 before the 300. Yeah. But you stay. Everybody else can go, because your body language does not say you want to be a warrior. Your body language says you're just out here. But I'm looking for focus. When you're walking around at work, do you look at your fellow employees' body language? You know who's there to get the job done that day, and then you also know who's just going to be there for those 8 hours. Very important. This rolls through because you look at it. Gideon was a leader. He was a judge. He was one in that political realm in the book of Judges. He was given authority over them at that time period. So politics is not immune to body language. And I talked about it briefly in the beginning. Politics is not immune to body language. Do you read the body language of our leadership? And once again, I don't care what side of the fence that you might dwell upon at time periods. I just say, do you look at the anger and the ferocious words, not just hearing the words, but you see the words come out of folks' mouths, in their eyes, and in the tenseness of their jaws, and just how angry they can be because the Virginia Supreme Court overthrows redistricting, or because the U.S. Supreme Court changes how redistricting was. It said it's unconstitutional, and you see the anger and the facial expressions and that go from regular conversation almost into a rage. You see these things that begin to happen, and you start to say, well, look at their body language, look at their rage. Where's their thinking? Where's their comprehension at? And I've been there before myself. So it's not just a left thing or a right thing. It's been where you start talking and then everybody can see, and your change of emotion just doesn't happen. You don't have to raise your voice. People will see it in your body language and the intensity that you might have in your body. And then what ends up happening is, because body language is important, the rest of you starts to want to catch up to your body language. The rest of you, your words, your and I don't cuss, but some folks, their language, their voice level starts to catch up with the intensity that their body is starting to give out, and that body language just begins to grow. And it's, once again, you see hands, eye to eye look, squirming when a tough question is asked. All these things are part of body language. Shaking hands with other leaders. How do you shake hands with other leaders? Is there a form of, and I'm not a Kamala Harris fan. I thought she did something that was very smart during the debate with now President Trump, when she walked over to him and shook his hand, and it was the body language was one of, I mean, I don't think she won the debate. I thought she, actually, you know what? I did tell somebody I think she won it. I thought he got rolled into some of the situations that she wanted him to be in. She laid some traps and he ran into it. And I think it started from the very beginning when she walked up on him and shook his hands like that. All right. Now, the rest of her campaign, well, I don't want to get into that, but I know that they were talking about doing an autopsy of her campaign to see where it went wrong. Well, I'll tell you where it started off wrong, when they didn't have an emergency primary and they just threw her into it. Done. It was over after that. The rest of it was just a matter of time before she just got flat blown out the water, because people didn't get a choice, and they didn't get to hear to see who may have been a better candidate to run in 2024. But once again, God has the final decision on who's going to be in leader over the country. He puts everybody in leadership. So, but your facial expressions, your looks, all these things influence body. All these things are influenced by body language. And I just really want everyone to know and understand, because I'm going to dip back into politics a little bit later, because there's some political things that are diving right into sports. But this as we go into this, talking about body language in sports and being a youth football coach, I want you to know that this next segment is brought to you by Spartans Youth Football. Now, I stress and talk to young athletes about their body language and not giving their opponents any advantage by how they carry themselves. And it's very important and it's vital. And I've seen young men and young women over the years of coaching and being involved, and some of them not even directly coaching. Some I can just stand there and look at, or a team and how they walk out on foot. I remember my son in his senior year, they were playing school, America's High School, and the coach, who now coaches at Pebble Hills, he's one of the offensive line coach at Pebble Hills. He looked at halftime, he was watching El Dorado walk out of the locker room, and I remember hearing him say, if they want to lay down for you, then go ahead and help them be down there on the ground. Keep knocking them down. And it was all off of their body language. And I remember going back up to the stands and telling my wife, I said, this game's over. And she said, no, babe, they got a chance to come back. I said, no, look at them and look at them. And this team here, which was America's High School, these kids they were warming up to destroy. El Dorado was warming up to finish the second half of a football game. And they got mollywopped. El Dorado got mopped, but it was all in their body language. And I remember telling my son, I said, it was in your body language. Now, their body language changed by the time they got to their by-district game and they beat Permian. But they had a totally different body. They went to Texas Tech, they went to Lubbock, and they played Permian. And their body language, from the time they got on the bus at El Dorado to the end of that game, their body language was, we're winning this football game. And even after the referee they started making up some stuff. I was hot. But anyway, that was, wow, 12, 13, 14, 2012, so 14 years ago. But body language, I stress, like I said, when I talk to young athletes about their body language and not giving their opponents any advantage. As a young wrestler, and even as a football player, way back in the day, you're talking about over 50 years ago, one of the things I would always do is I would look at my opponent. And I would know beforehand if this is going to be a fun match. It means we're going to have to go to war because due to how they carry themselves, or if this is going to be quick. But then also I learned over time there are matches that I lost because my body language going out on the mat, my mental state, my body language was one of, let's just get this over with. And I did that at State my senior year. And once again, I tell people I don't live with regrets. I embrace what happened because then I was able to share with other young men. I went through so young men didn't have to go through if they listened and they paid attention. I wish I didn't have to go through it, but it was all on me. So, But to tell them that body language, how are you carrying yourself? So I would know, even when we walked out on the football field, I could walk around and look and say, yeah, we're winning this game. We're not. They've already lost. Even with coaching, I can tell with my kids, and we may not always win the game, but I can tell whether they're going to fight or not. I can tell whether it's going to come down to a play or two plays, or this game is over before it even starts. And I can go to coaches and I always say, their body language is not saying they're out here to ball. But there's other times I can come out and say, man, these kids ready. And we still get mollywopped because the other team may be that much better than us, or vice versa. I've looked at it and said, man, this is really going to be a tough one. But our kids may be just that much better athletes at that time period, or coached up better. Maybe we get out coached. But their body language, you read body language, very much so. I think about this, and I think just out of high school, and I was in the military when Tyson fought Michael Spinks. Tyson came to the ring a certain way. When Michael Spinks was coming to the ring, they were like, get him, Mike, get him, Mike. And he said, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try. And the look on his face and his body language. And I had people over in New Jersey, and we were supposed to be watching this long fight. And I remember telling folks, this ain't going to last long because this dude don't want to be in the ring. And it was all about his body language. And it was amazing just off his body language and how he carried himself and the importance of it. So once again, even athletically, you look at it, because we don't allow ourselves to be great when we walk around in a mindset of barely surviving. God never told us to barely survive. He gave us dominion. Genesis 1:26. He gave us dominion. And our body language should display dominion. When you go, you can say, I've never really worked out before. When you go and you hit that, and I like to say slinging and slanging, hanging and banging. But when you get up in the gym and you're working out, your body language should be one of, I'm going to beat this body into submission. When you're praying, and it's all locked into it. It's all, and I told you, we're going to be all areas at all time, because body language is just encompassing. When you're praying, man, you're praying, your body, it's not just your words, it's the victory that comes with it. And if you're all slumped over, like smote your chest and say, Father, I'm giving it all over to you. Your body language is so very important. And before I get to the NBA and NHL playoffs, politics and sports have crossed lines once again. And and this is going back to what I stated in the beginning about the redistricting, and how a lot of people say, well, you're taking away black folks' constitutional right and their voice won't be heard. Nobody's stopping you from voting. And I talked about what gerrymandering was in my last podcast, how it came about, how that it is, no matter how you do it, no matter you're Republican, Democrat, it's wrong. Let's just get together and vote. But because of how it's set up in the House, and gerrymandering mostly affects the House, it's representation. So how many House seats that you get. So it really doesn't affect the Senate. It affects the House. So you have this going on with that, as far as and you get so many Senate seats, etc. But really mostly affects the House. But you have so many people now, folks with money, i.e., and I'll say his name, like a D.L. Hughley, and many others that are saying, hey, these athletes need to boycott and not go to schools in Texas or Virginia or Alabama or Florida or Tennessee, whatever it might be, Indiana. Well, not so much, because Indiana didn't get too much involved in it. They shouldn't go there. And let's see how it happens when you take all these black athletes, leave these SEC, ACC schools or whatever, and they go other places. And let's see how it affects them then. Well, that was about as smart as saying you're going to boycott Target. You didn't hurt their bottom line. And also, it's not going to hurt the schools, because this is what's going to happen. And this is the thing. If you did that, and if the kids decided to do that, you're going to have, first off is, you're only going to hurt each other. Because if you have a black running back that's starting at Penn State, say, and you have another black running back that was starting at Auburn, Alabama, now they're competing for the same spot. Now you have one black kid who's not going to be playing because the other one may have left or whatever it might be. And then you're talking about NIL money and the amount of money these kids will lose out on, because schools only have so much. But these folks that are saying these things, you're not going to open up your pocketbook, are you? I mean, let's just keep it 100. You ain't trying to, we ain't going to be looking up, you pulling me back. Just get the money from, and you're going to have this money, and you're not. You'll sit there in your palatial estates, and you'll tell these young boys, or even young women if it's basketball fit, they're not leaving South Carolina. They're not going to leave Dawn Staley. I know South Carolina's not really caught up in that, but I'm just saying they're not leaving. They're not going to leave LSU. They're not leaving. I'm talking about the young ladies that are playing basketball. They're not leaving. They're not going to leave these schools because of this. Because look at the money that they would leave on the table, and you're not going to give them that money. You're not going to replace them and financially with that. So you're telling them to sacrifice for their families while you're still out on tour making money, or your podcast making money, or you're on TV making money. You're not going to sacrifice and give your money back to them, but you want them to give up all that money. Man, please. That don't make any sense. That does it. That does it. They can agree with you. They may look at it and say, oh yeah, this is not right, this is not, etc. But now you're trying to tell them to go broke or to compete and push somebody out. And then you'll get mad and say, then you'll get mad if the school becomes predominantly white and they just put, oh, it's a segregated school again. You just told all these players to leave over something they have no control over. They don't. But we can educate each other on these things and realize when it doesn't stop your vote. It doesn't keep you from voting. It really doesn't. And I would hope and pray that if you're that much into it, then find the opposite and say, okay, well, what about this was set up for this? This needs to be dismantled. If you find something on the opposite side of it. But don't start asking people to do stuff that you're not going to help support them on, because they're going to school first off for their education, but a lot of them can change their financial lives when they go to these schools. And if they start trying to bail out, and I haven't heard of one athlete that said, yeah, I'm doing that, because most of them are saying, no, don't ask me to do it, because you're not going to do that. Are you going to not go to Alabama on a tour? Oh, I ain't going to Birmingham, but I'm going to go over here. You're still in Alabama. And I just wanted to get that out for people who want these kids to leave and boycott schools, etc. And once again, it really did work well with Target, didn't it? No. And if you really want to start boycotting stuff, and I saw this was so, take your Apple phone, take your Apple iPad and throw it in the trash, because they supported Trump. Take a lot of things that you like to eat and you love. Don't go to Chick-fil-A anymore. You see what I mean? How stupid it is? That's how dumb it is. I remember, and as we get ready to get into the playoffs, I remember when my bishop and Christians were like, we're going to boycott Disney because gay this, gay that, etc. And he said, I'm not boycotting this. I don't have to agree with what they're doing. But the Bible says God has given me all things richly to enjoy. I'm not celebrating what they want to celebrate. I'm going to get on Space Mountain. And this is what I took from it. And I said, man, that's awesome. I'm not going to let what I know is incorrect biblically stop me from enjoying the fruits of the labor. And God says, this is your opportunity to do this. I'm not sinning. I'm not embracing the sin. And that's very important. But let's look at real quick. Let's get into the sports part for these last minutes. And I really want to talk about this. First off, my Sixers just laid down for the Knicks. They utterly embarrassed the history of the Philadelphia 76ers. The body language from beginning of game 4 was straight quitters. They got beat by almost 40 points. And I believe that it was over 30 points, 20-something, 30 points. It was almost 50 points at one point. And I agree with Kendrick Perkins, Big Perk, when I say they will not win with Embiid. I think they do need to find a way to trade him, get rid of him. You cannot have a 7'2" or 3 guy, whatever he might be, on the ground every single play. I don't remember Shaq flopping. And people will say, and Shaq himself will say there's a lot of times he didn't get calls that he should have got. But the one thing you didn't do is you didn't see Shaq laying on the ground, play after play. I'm sure there was times that he may have embellished, but you didn't see it time after time after time after time. And it's really sad that a storied franchise as my Philadelphia 76ers, I didn't see Moses Malone flopping. Nope. You didn't see Wilt Chamberlain. No, I didn't see Wilt Chamberlain when he played with the Sixers. I was a baby, so. But you didn't see Moses Malone. Darryl Dawkins didn't flop. You didn't see those. You didn't see men like that. Mutombo had to battle against Shaq. You didn't see him flopping, falling on the ground every time he was touched. And I can just name center after center after center, big man after big. George McGinnis, he wasn't flopping all over the place. That was back in the 70s. He played power forward. For y'all who don't know, look him up. All right. You didn't see Doc, and Doc got hammered. You didn't see Dr. J flopping. So Allen Iverson, but his first love was football. But Allen, you didn't see him flopping and falling. So the leadership, and I used to get upset with the Sixers because I would always say that you're not surrounding these great leaders with the players doing championships. Barkley didn't flop. They didn't have him, and Iverson really weren't given all the weapons around them to win. But they didn't fall all over the place. And I really believe the Sixers have the tools to go out and win, but it's the leadership, who they surround, who they put the pieces around, to me, is in that. So I'm not a big, I'm glad, I like Embiid as a player. I just don't like the way he flops and falls all over the place, and he stays hurt. You can't hit the ground that much and your body not to give out on you after a while. So the Knicks look primed to make a run at the NBA championship, and their body language is saying it. Everything that the Knicks does says we are winning. Minnesota came into the Spurs series after winning the regular season matchup, but this series to me would be 3-1 if Wemby wasn't ejected last game. And that, upon further review, yeah, he turned it through his elbow. At first I was told he shouldn't, but then I was told no. And after I saw it, he should have been ejected for that. The good thing is he will be back for Game 5. When this comes out, Game 5 will already been completed, so the series will either be 3-2 Spurs or 3-2 Minnesota Timberwolves. Wow, I forgot that one real quick. So with that, so these next few games will be very exciting. Now, can Wemby get back on track? I believe he can. Can the Spurs slow Edwards down? I don't think it's so much slowing him down. It's more so of keeping the weapons around him in check. I know Fox is dealing with a sore ankle, so Vassell and Champagne and those guys have to come and up to step it up. They're really going to need to step it up. Now, Detroit and Cleveland, I said it was going to be a good physical series, and as predicted, I think the series is going to go 7. I think they're going to battle and go 7. They're tied up right now. Detroit had to step it up, but I really believe that this is going to go a 7-game series. And the West, it is all about OKC, as long as they stay healthy. And they're sitting there waiting for the winner of Minnesota and San Antonio, even though San Antonio did beat them, I believe, 4 out of the 5 times, chances that they played each other. So I believe they're really probably cheering for Minnesota, but them sweeping the Lakers, I did not see that happening. But I'm gonna give the Lakers credit, and I'm gonna give LeBron credit. They were down 3-0, and they came and they fought that game. They were down 11 or 12 at points, and they fought back. LeBron's a terrific player. I'm not engaged with, And I don't drag politics into sports as far as whether I like a person as a player. I don't mean I agree with his stuff politically. As a player, he's one of the greats of all time. He's not one, that's Jordan. I'm not arguing that with anybody. The GOAT is Jordan. But even Jordan and now LeBron has said, we can just put that thing to rest. It's a waste of time. Okay. But anyway, his leadership had the Lakers battling every single game. There's just more talent on OKC. They're deeper. Luka may have made somewhat of a difference for a game or two, but they weren't going to beat OKC, even at full strength. But it would have been a better series or tighter series. It was 4 games. It would have been a longer series. But their body language, they came out to win game 4. They really did, unlike the Sixers, who came out just to survive. So my Flyers in hockey, they were swept by the Hurricanes, but they showed up and they went down with the battle. And what did the fans of Philadelphia do? They gave them a standing ovation at the end of the game because their body language said, we're coming back. Now, there's only one team I think of in history of hockey that came back from being down 3-0, and that was the Flyers a few years ago when they came back against the Boston Bruins. They were down 0-3 and came back and they won the series 4-3. So it can happen. It has happened. And it was the Flyers who did it before. And they came in with that attitude of, hey, we're going to come back and figure out how to win this thing. But they didn't. And they had chances in games 2 and overtime, games 3. Actually, the last 3 games. Game 1, they just got skated off the ice. But 2, 3, and 4, they were either winning or in position to win. And they just didn't get it done. But the fans appreciated that effort. And they appreciate the body language. And they appreciate the fact that they came out to win. And they battled to win. Now, once again, you can have the body language, the mannerism. Sometimes the other team is just better than you. Sometimes that person is just better than you. The Sixers didn't display that. Look at the body language when they walked out on the court. Vegas, the Vegas Knights and the Anaheim Ducks, they've had some exciting games. It's crazy. It's 2-2 in that series. The Avalanche are up 3-1 over the Minnesota Wild. Avalanche are real. They're just putting up too many goals. So I don't see the Wild coming back on that one. And the Canadians hold a 2-1 lead in their series. So over the Sabres. And once again, they're putting up a lot of goals. So back to the body language. I watch the body language and I watch all these sports and I pick up tidbits of each one of these games. And I always look at the body language. How are you carrying yourself? How do you look? What are you making yourself feel like and look like? And something I rarely talk about, especially when it comes to body language, it was MMA and this fight coming up this weekend with Ronda Rousey and Carano. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I'm not picking a winner. I do not have a prediction. I just hope it's a good fight. They're 2 legends, 2 foundation for women MMA, or both of these, Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey. Even in the acting, for women that were in MMA to get into acting, they both were able to move into other fields. Rousey went into WWE. I thought she did good for a while. Then they just lost track of what they wanted to do with her. But they got into act. So I hope it's a good fight for both these ladies. And I hope they make it fun for everybody to be out watching them go to battle in such a way that their body language walking in. And I know one of Ronda Rousey's last fights, I think Nunes, when she walked in, she was beat. She gave off that look like I'm ready, but look at her shoulders and her mindset and things that she said. It really just set that off. But your body language is so very important. And don't ever forget that. How you carry yourself, people will begin to look at. Walk with a godly confidence, not just so much confidence in you. Walk with a godly confidence. Know who you are and who God made you to be. And understand one thing, that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So walk with that confidence. And everything that you do, walk in that confidence. When you're worshiping God and sharing about, talking about the things of God, do it with a great confidence. If it's in the political realm, and no matter what side of the fence you're on, because I'm staunch conservative, okay? Basically that way. But when you're sharing, man, do it with a confidence and let people see your confidence and not your anger, that anger is overtaking you, but your confidence in what you're saying, your body language. And in the sports world, young men and young women, carry yourself with such a great confidence in everything that you do. I'm not saying you're going to win every time, but when you walk out there, your opponent should know this is going to be a battle, and you're going to have to dance with me all night long, because you carry that in there with your body language. This is Bill Smith. My body language says, yo, GPS in the house. God, politics, sports. Holla at your brother. Make sure you subscribe, become a member, subscribe, YouTube, GPS. God bless you. Woo, baby. Thank you for joining me for God, Politics, and Sports. Stay engaged, stay encouraged, and I look forward to speaking to you once again on God, Politics, and Sport.